Welcome everyone. This is Cami and Sarah at Syzygy, and we are very excited to have you today talking about a very important topic, time. It's the yeses and nos and scheduling a life that's yours. And this is an awesome session, and this is Sarah's content that she knows very, very well because she's been a Franklin Covey trainer for many years. And I can tell you that several years ago, as I was a new business owner, I started, I was, just managing all the things all at once and just crazy busy all the time. And Sarah invited me to go do one of her classes that she was teaching on this subject matter. And I can tell you it shifted everything in my business. It totally shifted the way I manage my time, and it's basic stuff. And it's really funny, and we'll talk about that this is basic stuff. And this is something that we all think we know, but we don't always put it into practice. And so the reminder of going back and taking time to stop and slow down and just tune into how we manage our time and really get clear on that is an important thing to do. So we're going to jump in today, and I want to welcome everybody, and we're going to talk about time.
Woohoo! All right. Well, with each of these jam sessions, we try to really bring in some songs because we're jamming, of course. And so I'm sure that in your lifetime, you have at least heard this song once. And it's the whole time in a bottle, right? And if you listen to those words, they're pretty powerful. It's like, what would you do if you could save time in a bottle? Right? Would any of you really like to bottle up time and just have the ability to pull it out and use it whenever you need it most? Right? Have any of you ever said, man, I just wish that I had a little bit more time, or man, this weekend just flew by and it's already Monday? Right? I'm sure that many of you have had those conversations out loud, or even just in your own mind, right? Because time is something that, is a challenge for all of us, no matter what our business is. And so we're just going to move forward with that. Gosh, we can't bottle time, but there are some things that we can do. Now, there's another jam that I love, and I am a country girl at heart, and so I absolutely love Sugarland. And they have a song, and it's all about running out of time. And you can see on the screen some of the lyrics. And I picked this one because I can totally relate. Right? It says, running out of time, gotta slow down. If you don't, you're gonna break down. I'm running out of time, 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 time. And I don't know about you, but when I am out of time or trying to fit too much into my day, my body tells me when things are not scheduled right? When I'm not taking time for me. Because today it's not just about talking about how do we schedule stuff for work. It's about that whole person paradigm where we're scheduling time for our things that matter most, our relationships, ourselves, and all of those things. So you can relate, I'm sure. And so let's go ahead and dive in deep. Cami?
Okay, so you've got 86,400 minutes in a day. So in 24 hours a day, 1440 minutes a day, and 86,400 minutes a day. And as you are thinking about how you manage all those 86,400 minutes of each day, what words come to mind? Right now, I want you to jot down two words that are coming up loudest for you. How do you manage those 86,400 minutes per day? Just jot them down. So are these words positive or negative? I'd love to hear back from you.
For me, I know it depends on the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, I mean, they might be F words. They might be frantic, freaky, or frazzled. Or maybe they're C words. Maybe they're words like calm and content and cool. My guess is they're not, if that's what it's about your time management. I'm guessing that they're more on the frazzled side of things. Today we're going to share ideas on how you can make tiny shifts in how you think and how you manage your time. all to become more effective and to remove barriers from living the life you love. And this is really important because if you you won't be stepping in and living the life you love if you don't get this piece of it right. It's critically important. We've heard people say that time is a beginner skill. It is not a beginner skill. I would love to hear. You know, it's really, time is about starting to step into manage it and getting the skill set and fine-tuning it and crafting it in a way that you are a master of your time. Time is what we want most, but what we use worst, right? Ask a professional today to share an issue that they can use help with, and it's amazing how many people will tell you it's time. It's not a beginner skill. As lives change, things become more complex. New chapters in your life unfolds. Time is always staring you in the face. And as things change, the good news is that it gives us an opportunity to make new and better time choices. You can always get better with time. So I love this mantra. You can do anything, but not everything. If you joined us in our first session, in the Purpose Jam session, you know we talked about purpose. We spent a lot of time talking about how having a clear purpose is the first step to living a life you love. And this principle must be carried through in today's jam, because when you think about time, you have to link it to your passion and your purpose. If you don't, you might be tempted to start linking time to things, like money, for example. The decisions about how you spend time might jeopardize what really matters most, like the relationships in your life. And if you don't stay grounded on purpose. So for a moment, I want you to go back and think about what your purpose was, what you wrote down last month, what purpose you're starting to think about, what purpose you're starting to define in the work that we're all doing together. And think about the people that are most important to you and the outcomes that you're wanting to create. Hold on to this as we proceed through this today. Really be clear about what your purpose is, and as we start looking at these different aspects of how can you manage your time, purpose is going to come into playing in a big sort of a way. And its time becomes much easier to tackle because you know you don't have time to do everything.
That's right. So we're going to talk about some choices, because when you think about time, at the end of the day, it's all about how you're choosing to use it, right? And so the very first choice is, who do you say yes to the most, right? So are you saying yes to you first, right? And only yes to other people if you truly want to. Right? And if you are familiar with savings, like with money, you know, and those kind of philosophies about paying yourself first, right? So when you get paid, you're going to take a chunk and you're going to just put it in your savings, so you're paying yourself first. We're going to use that when we think about time as well, right? So I know that I've got this week that's in front of me. What are those things that I need to do to pay myself first with time? Right? And you're really going to think about those things that you truly can influence, right? If you are a student of the 7 Habits, you've probably heard of the circle of influence versus the circle of concern. And when I'm spending time on things that I have concerns about, it's not as effective as spending time on things that I can truly influence, right? So I might be concerned about, you know, the fact that you know, the environment is important. Yeah, I can spend time and energy, you know, like getting worked up about all the what ifs, but what can I truly do to influence a better environment that I'm living in, right? What are those tactical things, those things that I can actually do right now, right? You want to schedule those. So as you think about your truest passions and mission in this life, I'd like you to consider 3 things. I want you to consider, what are your most important roles? I want you to and also consider your most important goals, and then finally, your most important desires. And so I'll give you a couple of examples here. When I'm thinking about time, it's really important for me to think about those most important roles that I fulfill. You know, I have a role as mother, I have a role as wife, and I have a role as friend. And so as I'm looking at my week, I want to say, all right, what are some of the activities that are really going to help me be the best mother that I can be, the best wife, and the best friend? And of course, there may be other roles that you have that are important to you, but you really want to zone in there, right? And then drill it down a little bit deeper into your goals. So I have a goal of blogging once a week. Now, I haven't been making the right choices to make that happen, but if at the beginning of the week I really zone in and say, oh yeah, I remember that was really important to me, I can schedule some time, right? I also have a goal that I want to go to yoga a couple of times a week. So when specifically do I want to do that? Right? So what are those really important goals that you have, whether they're about your business, your personal life, what have you? I have a goal this weekend to take a vacation, right? And so this has actually happened. We scheduled it several months back, and I'm going to Vegas. Woohoo! Right? So roles, goals, and then the third piece are your desires. So what are those things that are really just pulling at your gut? You know, I have a desire to help people do epic shit, right? That's my mission. And so what are those key activities that I'm going to do this week that are really going to help propel me forward to help people do that, right? I have a desire to write a book one day. So what are the things that I can do this week to make that happen? So if you can really, at the beginning of the week, or maybe you like to on Friday, perhaps look to your next week so that you can kind of know over the weekend that you've got things set out. Whatever works for you is cool. But you really want to make sure that you're looking at those three areas, your roles, goals, desires. And each day, before you get started, you have to begin there. You know, check in with yourself. Ponder for a few minutes those things that matter most to you right now. And make that conscious commitment to yourself to say yes to the tasks that support these areas and saying no to everything else. Remember, time is about choice. So I would encourage each of you to write down those important roles that are coming up for you right now. What do you hope the people connected to those roles would say about you? Right? Write those down, keep them in a place where you can review them weekly. Daily is even better. And just keep that goal in mind that you're only going to say yes to those things that align to your roles, goals, and desires. Everything else you're going to say no to. And of course, as we move forward, we're going to talk about ways that you can say no, because it's definitely easier said than done. Again, Cami touched on this piece of having your personal purpose or vision statement. What is it that you're going to do in this life? Now make sure that as you're thinking about time that you're checking in with that statement regularly. You know, do you have it in your wallet where you can pull it out and read it? Do you have it on your iPhone? You know, one of the things that I think is kind of cool is that on your iPhone or on your Outlook or on whatever system you're using to track time, you can set up a recurring reminder with an alarm that will pop up. And it will demand that you read your purpose. And so maybe every Thursday at 10 o'clock, that's going to be your time to check in. And it's automatically going to come up on your phone, and it's going to force you to look at it. Okay? If you're already doing this, congratulations. Right? If you're not doing it or doing it consistently, you've got some homework. Right? So maybe it's Monday morning at 6:30 before your week rocks out of control. That's going to be your time to reflect deeply. Or perhaps it's during your gym time on Tuesdays when you're on the treadmill. Right? It doesn't matter when you schedule it, but you got to do it. Right? For at least 15 minutes a week. Right? Your purpose is your guiding light, and when you stay uber focused on it, you're much more capable of blocking out all the other things that might detract you or cause you to maybe spend time on things that don't matter most. For example, I have a really big problem when I've got a little bit of free time and I get sucked into like some kind of marathon like Cutthroat Kitchen instead of going for a hike or something. So you've just got to be fierce with the way that you're spending that time. So let's go on and talk about the second choice. So the first choice was about who, and the second choice is about how. How can you see and show what's most important? You know, because until we can manage time, we can manage nothing else, right? And seeing is believing. You want to show what's most important on a schedule. And you only are going to add those things, of course, that matter most. So I don't care if you use a paper planner, if you use some fancy technology. It's just something where if you're going to live on purpose and do kick-ass things that light your heart on fire, you have to be able to put it somewhere, right? It's not just in your head, right? So think about how you spend your time again. Do you currently spend at least 15 minutes each week managing the big things that need to be done over the next 7 days? Now, I'm not just talking about it while you're laying in bed or even when you're thinking about your purpose. I'm talking about really looking at your schedule, right? And writing things down, typing them out, knowing what date and time you're actually going to do things, right? So thinking about how you spend your time, do you think 15 minutes would be enough, right? I would say if you're not doing this, it's kind of like not using the coupons that you have at the grocery store to save money on the things that you need. You're actually choosing to pay more, right? You can really buy yourself time by making the investment in yourself, right? And next time in jam number 3, we're going to focus on systems that we can actually use to manage your schedule. Like we're going to log in and I can show you some really cool things in Outlook or whatever kind of online tools that you're using. But today's jam is really about the mindset of time. Right? If we can get that mental creation in place, then that physical creation of how do I actually do it becomes really, really simple. So next time, it's all about skill. Today, it's all about the mind. Feeling pretty good? Awesome.
So I love this quote, and of course, it's a Stephen Covey quote. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And when we're talking about mindset, it has everything to do with how you schedule your priorities, how you get your priorities right. How do you bring things? Is everything a priority? Is everything urgent? Today's 24/7 lifestyle that we live, where we're always going, we're always connected, we have to stop and say what's most important. And an email pops into your email box. And how many of you actually have a bell that rings when your email goes, Sarah? Sarah, who else out there? I'd love to hear from the others of you. Does your email ring when you get an email? Does it beep?
Yeah, mine does. This is Ashara.
Yeah? Okay. How about you, Ellen?
I really don't pay attention to it.
Good. Good. Wendy? Are you there, Wendy? Or Candace? Okay. Go ahead. Who was going to say something?
I know better, but I do.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. If you can find the place how you turn that off, and we'll talk a little bit about this next week or next month, but find that where you turn that beep off. It's the best gift you can give yourself, because talk about interrupting your priorities. When every time you get an email ringing in your ear, you're just going to go, oh, what is it? And go look. So turn them off. If you're waiting for an important reply from a boss, for instance, but just about average everyday email, you can say that can get answered later on at a specific time in the day. Start to get tough on yourself. And in the moment of choice, be strong. Resist the wooing email that keeps you from focusing on your priorities. This is another tool, another Franklin Covey tool that I really like. And I actually think I have a PDF of this if anybody's interested in it. But this is a great way to take all of the things that you're working on you could look at the week, for example, and you could say, okay, I'm going to go put everything into this matrix that I'm working on this week. And you'll see what you've got here. You've got urgent items that are important. You've got urgent items that are, or not urgent items that are important. You've got urgent items that are not important, and urgent items that are not urgent. And we tend to spend a lot of our time responding in these urgent items here, and even into the urgent items that are not, we get email, we get interruptions, we get phone calls, somebody else's priority, not our priority, right? And there's going to be things that we have that are certainly fall into this urgent, important, that we have to, we just have to take care of. A child gets sick at school, we have to go pick them up. Those are important things that we have to take care of. This category actually often gets left behind. It's important, but it's not urgent. And I think this is where you see this a lot is taking time to plan your to do some planning for your business, taking time to do things that are most important to you. Things if you're trying to bring some strategy to your business and to your work. If you don't take this space and time, I had one of my very favorite bosses that I used to work for years ago. Worked really, really hard for him, and as did everyone who worked for him. And in the case of one day, he reached out to his whole team, and he told us, he says, you know what, you guys need to take space and time once a week that you turn off your phone, you turn off your email, and you go do some strategic work. You need to get out of the office and go do that strategic work. And we all looked at him like, what? That's crazy. We don't have time to go take 4 hours out of, to go, you know, just to be away out of the office and to break away from all of that. And he's like, you guys don't not have the time. You have to do this. And I can promise you that when I did that, and I didn't always do it religiously every week, but when I did it, the best ideas that I ever came up with in that role that I was in got spawned during that time. I would go sit down on my deck and I would take those 4 hours, and I came up with some really incredible programs by taking that space, that quiet space away. So that important and not urgent box is a really important place to be in, and make sure that you're making time for that. I mean, as a business owner, I actually set aside CEO time. This is my time for planning on my business. And then down here on the bottom quadrant, these are not important and not urgent. Okay, so why do we spend time there? So what I encourage you to do is to use this matrix and look at your schedule this week. Look at all the things, the to-do list that you have to do, and start to just map this out. And I can promise you it will start to shift the way that you put priorities on different items.
The goal is to live north of the line, right?
That's right.
1 or 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's running your show? Either you run the day or the day runs you. So I just invite you all to be thinking about that every day. Look at what's important. And we'll talk more next month about, you know, how do you really put the to-dos around it, but or how do you manage all those to-dos. But today I want you really thinking about what's most important to you. Okay, so your future is impacted with decisions in the present. Are you going to be okay with what today's choice may do tomorrow? I believe the most issues with time management sprout from lack of courage. Yep, lack of courage. That's not too few hours in the day, it's lack of courage. But what's lack of courage have to do with it? One, say no. You have the opportunity to say no. Delegate. Look for someone else to help with something that you don't need to spend all of your time on. Schedule versus react. So put it on the schedule. Somebody calls and says they need your time. You don't need to do it right then, chances are. Say, I would love to help you with this. Can we schedule some time when it works in my schedule? Spend time finding greater efficiencies. Look for ways that improve things. I mean, I know that I've got a client database that improves my efficiencies. It automates things. I send things out that I'm not in the midst of having to manage. It's just happening. So look for efficiencies. And take time to recharge your priorities. That's what we were just talking about. So time management is all about choices, and you are the only one in charge. You can choose a crisis. You can choose it to be a crisis, or you can choose to stay calm in the midst of it. You can choose to pay yourself first, that savings analogy that Sarah talked about, or you can, or live in the circle of concern versus the circle of influence. And I know you may be thinking that this time management seems so basic, and that I don't understand all you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. You have to create that report. You have to get some information off to people. You have to follow up with people. You have to go get all of those personal items all done. You have to run all the errands. You have to, the list goes on and on and on. You don't always have to, and that's the choice that we want you to stop and think about. It's like, what are the most important things? So I don't know your challenges. However, I do know that if you're saying yes to all the things and feeling like you should be doing something else, or that you have too much on your plate, then you have the choice to make a change that you're about what you're deciding to spend your time on. So time management is a dance, right? It's you get to decide, what's important to you, what you need to respond to. It is a dance. Sometimes you're rocking, and other times it's like you're trying to cha-cha, and when you need to be doing the waltz. So tune into that rhythm that you're in, and notice how it's impacting your body. If you're feeling like you're being pulled all the time, then it's time to step back and say what's most important, and then reground yourself, get those priorities straight, and then step forward into it. I know when I start getting stressed about time, it's because I've chosen to say yes far too much and no far fewer times than I should, for fear of letting someone down. But isn't that letting myself down?
So true, so true.
Okay, Sarah, I'll let you take it from here.
You bet. Well, on the next screen, we've got 8 habits of highly productive people, and this first one just screams out to me. It says, ruthlessly cut away the unimportant, right? And so this one really articulates what we've been talking about. If something isn't important, we're going to say no and get it the heck off my calendar or out of my way right now. If it's something that's aligned to my purpose, I'm absolutely going to schedule it. And so I'd like you to just take a moment, grab your pencil, and I want you to write down a list of all the things that you have to do this next week, right? So the next 5, 6, 7, 8 days, something like that. And make it as detailed as you can. Even if it's something mundane like I need to pay the power bill, or I need to go to the grocery store, or I need to check my email. Whatever those things are, just go ahead and take a second and jot down the first few things that come to your mind. All right, stop where you're at. I know you could go on for hours probably, right? But for the things that you did write down, I'd like you to run through this list with me. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I'd just like you to give yourself kind of a gut check. So look at that first task on your list. Is this task really even important to me? Right? A lot of times we find that we're doing things because we don't want to let somebody else down, or something like that. So if this is a task that's really important to you, then you're going to schedule it, right? If it's important to somebody that you really care about and that relationship matters, then sure, you might want to schedule that too. But think, is it important to me? The second one is, does this task have to be done right now? Many things have the illusion of urgency, but what really would the risk be if you did it tomorrow instead of today? Right? So really think about that timing of, okay, when does it really need to be done? The third piece, what's the consequence of renegotiating this task? Is this a real consequence, or is it imagined? I know when I'm working on projects with other people, I sometimes fear that judgment that I might get should I come back and say, oh my gosh, I don't have the opportunity to get this done by Wednesday, but I know that I could get it done by Friday. Because I want people to think that I am a rock star all the times and I can do it all. I am Wonder Woman. Right? And that's my own ego that I've got to deal with. And so a lot of times I imagine that they're going to be really upset with me, or that I'm going to let them down, or that they're going to think that I'm a jackass. Right? But it's not any of those things. It's all in my head. And so what's the real consequence? You've got to consider that. The fourth piece, do I really need to be the one who does it? And this links back to that whole delegation piece, right? I really hate scrubbing the toilet. And I don't always have to be the one that does it, right? My husband might think that I need to do it because he doesn't want me to spend money on a housekeeper, but man, when I spend money on a housekeeper, it encourages me in so many other areas. It's the best damn money that I can spend. And so I encourage you to think about those things. You know, do you have an intern that you could maybe toss this out to? Give them the opportunity to build some new skills. Yeah, you're probably going to have to coach them a little bit, but think about what that might open up for you in the future, right? So delegation, your best friend, right? And then the final question is, can you respectfully decline, right? And this is just a simple thing, right? To say, I just don't have time to do this, or this isn't, rather, a priority for me, right? So look back at your list. You know, do you really have to do each of these things? Now, a favorite reply that I have to requests that I really don't think that are important, or I don't have the personal time that I want to devote to that, is, you know, something like this. You know, thank you so much for thinking of me, but I'm not able to do this. Have you considered asking Jane? Have you considered seeing what you can do by engaging somebody on Elance to make this for you? You know, there's always another option that then you can provide. And nobody's going to look at you and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you said no. You know, you're saying no, but you're also offering them something, right? And never, ever, ever, ever hesitate to renegotiate with people when you need to, right? Deadlines, when things get done, all of that. It's a, I can't do it right now, but would by Friday at 5 o'clock be an option? It's amazing how many people are like, well, yeah, Friday by 5 would be fantastic. I'm just glad that you're doing it. So don't forget that really, really powerful tool of renegotiating. And this last piece I want you to hear really loud is that you don't have to explain to people why you can't do things, right? It's your time. You just have to be respectful when you decline and leave it at that. And I know, again, that it's easier said than done, but you must if you want to live the life you love versus just living for others and their happiness. Now, if we continue to look at this, at these 8 habits, habit number 2 is all about scheduling your time well, and also not forgetting that breaks are critical to your effectiveness. And so when you are looking at that time management choice number 2 of, you know, how do you see and show what's most important to you, and that seeing is believing piece, you know, don't just look at your calendar and schedule every waking moment, right? You know that you've got to have some slack because those quadrant 1 urgent and important things that you really can't plan for are going to pop up, right? And when you're looking, you know, at your time, make sure that other people that are around you know when you work really well, and so that they can honor that. And when you're scheduling things, know yourself. So if you're a morning person, maybe you're going to schedule your toughest tasks in the morning. You know, if you don't work on Saturdays, ensure that your team and those that you serve knows this, right? And I want you to consider something. You know, since we are in this instant gratification kind of a world where the emails are dinging and my text messages are going off and it's just, you know, you're always plugged in, have you conditioned people to think that you're always available by answering emails at all hours of the day on Sundays, right? If you have, stop. Okay. Have you conditioned people that you're always going to help them at the very last minute by always saying yes to those last minute requests, even if other things suffer as a result, right? If you do, stop, right? Do you work on vacations? Stop, right? This is your time. You've got to rejuvenate, and it's a quadrant 2 activity. You know, spending that time on your mind, your body, your soul, you know, resting when you're tired, all of those things. You know, one of the things that I have to be really diligent around is scheduling time for lunch, because if I don't have that scheduled in, then I will keep working, right? So I need that little reminder that will pop up that says, it's time for you to feed your body. You know, even sometimes like going to the bathroom, right? So it's unrealistic to think that you're going to be on all the time, and there's a lot of great research about how your brain works that says you do need to have that mental break. So even if it's just a 10-minute break every 60 minutes, you know, think about what that cadence is going to be like for you, and just make sure that you're listening to your body and get it scheduled. So as you look at the other habits that you see on this screen, is there anything that pops out, or any tips that you would offer to everybody else that's in today's jam?
Come on, guys. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, what works for you?
This is Ashara. I think that setting timelines is really, really vital because when I don't do that, stuff just sits out there and languishes. And then I feel like, oh my God, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. And it just hangs over my head. So if I have a timeline, then I can stick it in my schedule and I can get it done.
Right, and so it relieves some of that anxiety of, oh my God, it's got to be done when you know that it's out there.
Exactly.
Yay! And so that makes your body feel good. I like it. Thanks for sharing. What other thoughts can y'all share?
This is Candace. Can you guys
Hi,
hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, one thing that I found extremely helpful both inside and outside of work is when you really want to focus, turn off your notifications, whether that is, your texting. You guys have mentioned that several times that there's constantly people trying to connect with you, and even Facebook is something that I found really liberating. Just turn those off, and you get you do get a lot more done, and you're not missing a lot when you go back to those things.
Funny, you're totally not missing much at all, are you?
No.
Yes.
Right. Have you guys heard of the FOMO, the fear of missing out? Right? It's so amazing how many people have that fear. It's like, oh my God, I've got to be connected all the time because I'm going to miss this comment that somebody made or whatever. It's like, no, I don't want to have that FOMO. I want to have the fear of like not being present.
Yeah.
Right? So thank you for sharing that, Candace. It's so vitally important, right? One of the things I want to share is my husband is like the best at time, and he hates it when people are late, and when you have a meeting that is scheduled for an hour, he expects that it be done in an hour. And the other day he came home and it was like 5 o'clock, and he comes walking in with this little kind of arrogance to him, and I said, what's up with you? He was like, yeah, I just left a meeting. And I was like, you did what? And he was like, well, yeah, it was scheduled from 4 to 5, and at 5 o'clock we still had about 30 minutes of agenda left. And so I stood up and said, hey, my time's valuable, and it's 5 o'clock, and I've got to go. And I nearly had a heart attack, fell off the chair thinking, holy moly, you're going to get fired. But he said, you know what, Sarah, I'm showing people that my time matters, and it's not respectful if you're going to, not check in with me first and see that it's okay that we continue. And it wasn't. I needed to get home. So, wow, talk about like having that courage to say no. I was like, whoa, I want to be more like you. So, yeah, you definitely have to have that courage and, to turn off the notifications, to say no, to just live that life that's yours. So, any other thoughts before we move on and wrap up our jam? All right. Well, there's just one story that I'd like to share with you, and it's about a little boy and time. It says, how much money do you make, Dad? It says, a man came home from work late again, tired and irritated. He found his 5-year-old son waiting for him at the door. He says, Daddy, may I ask you a question? He says, yeah, sure, what is it? He says, Daddy, how much money do you make an hour? He says, that's none of your business. What makes you ask such a thing? The man said angrily. He says, I just want to know. Please tell me, how much do you make an hour? Pleaded the little boy. He says, if you must know, I make $20 an hour. Oh, the little boy replied, head bowed. Looking up, he said, Daddy, may I borrow $9, please? The father was furious. If the only reason you wanted to know how much money I make is just so you can borrow some to buy a silly toy or some other nonsense, then you can march yourself straight to your room and go to bed. Think about why you're being so selfish. I work long, hard hours every day, and I don't have time for such childish games. The little boy quietly went to his room and shut the door. The man sat down and started to get even madder about the little boy's questioning. How dare he ask such questions only to get some money? After an hour or so, the man had calmed down and started to think that he may have been a little hard on his son. Maybe there was something he really needed to buy with that $9, and he really didn't ask for money very often. The man went to the door of the little boy's room, opened the door. He says, are you asleep, son? No, Daddy, I'm awake. I've been thinking. Maybe I was too hard on you earlier, said the man. It's been a long day, and I took my aggravation out on you. Here's that $9 you asked for. The little boy sat up straight, beaming. Oh, thank you, Daddy, he yelled. Then reaching under his pillow, he pulled out some more crumpled bills. The man, seeing that the boy already had money, started to get angry again. The little boy slowly counted out his money. Then he looked up at the man. "Why did you want more money if you already had some?" the father grumbled. He said, "Because I didn't have enough, but I do now," the little boy replied. He says, "Daddy, I have $20 now. Can I buy an hour of your time?"
Okay.
So tell me, what kind of,
surprise?
right? So what's the point of this story? Why share something like this? I think it links right back to what you see, that the battle for our hearts is fought on the pages of our calendars. So relationships are those things that suffer most when we don't make the right choices, right? So our third choice with time management is, when things get jammed up, what are you doing about it? When your family's saying, "I never see you," right? What do you do? Right? First, you just have to remember that you're in control. Remember that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Right? I have a beautiful bird that just landed on my porch and is looking at me as I'm speaking to you all, as if to reinforce the things that I'm saying. Right? It says, remember that you have control. There are no victims in time management. Right? It's about communication, renegotiation, and deleting things. Right? Don't schedule every available second. And when you notice that you're spending on things that are not urgent or not important, change the path. Right? Decline those things that you don't want to do. When you're not sure when you can fit things into your schedule, commit to commit. Right? So if you need time to consider impacts, consequences, competing priorities, those types of things, just let somebody know, "I'm definitely going to get back to you, but it is going to be on Friday, and then I'll let you know when I will have time to do it." And just really be clear about what your priorities are. Right? Let's move to I think our challenge for the day. Does that sound good, Cami?
Yep.
All right. Our JAM challenge. So we've talked a lot about that mindset of time. And so your homework is to just evaluate your goals, your roles, your desires, and do a time study for at least the last 2 weeks. Look back and reflect. Have you done well with spending your time in ways that align to the things that matter most to you? Right? Evaluate your systems. Right? Are you dedicating time to scheduling blocks of time? Right? Time for time. How are you organizing things like your meeting notes? Right? How are you saving your documents so that you can find things? Right? Is it logical and coordinated? How are you using the technology that's at your fingertips? And when do you just need to stop and personally connect? I know one of the things I tend to do is I email to death, and I'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth when it could have been just as easy to pick up the phone and call. Right? So think about those things, celebrate your wins that are you're doing well with time, and remember that this thing called life is supposed to be fun, right? And when you're not doing well, know that you've got different choices, right? And I want you to read or watch something about time, right? I love Pinterest. You can just go into Pinterest and search time, and all sorts of really cool things pop up. Search YouTube, read a book about time, but really just make that investment in yourself. Right? And we do have a TED Talk with each of our jams that we offer. We try to give you some added value. And so we've got a jam that is about the psychology of time. And Philip Zimbardo, and he really talks about prescribing a healthy take on time. And so it really goes back to that mindset and the tools that you have. So I challenge you to take this inside-out approach of time and allow that mental creation to really get deep, and then you can move into that physical creation piece. In addition to our TED Talks, we have some recommended reading, and this book, The Crazy Busy, is something that I hope everybody reads. It says, "I'm too busy." Most of us have probably used that excuse for time before, but with warmth, humor, and honesty, DeYoung explains why explains why a life of constant chaos is far from what is intended for your life, and it helps you strike a balance between doing nothing and doing everything. So it's all about discovering that restful cure that you have been too busy to find, and it's really an easy read. It's 160 pages, and it really is a great read, especially for today's time. And we just hope that you can tune in next month. Yes, Kemi?
Yeah, June 23rd or November 23rd.
Oh, in June we'll see you again for another jam.
I'm pretty sure it's June 23rd, yes.
Yeah, and be the same bat time, same bat station, 11:30 to
Yeah.
12:15.
And then also another reminder, too, is that we've got the Kevin Knebel webinar on using LinkedIn.
Yes.
If you're not signed up for that, please do sign up. Wendy, I'm not sure that that went out to all of the Syzygy clients, but I would love to invite you to it as well. So I'll make sure that you get a link for that. And it is in the morning at 9 a.m. on the 11th. And Kevin Knebel is a world-renowned LinkedIn expert, so I'm really thrilled that he's going to be joining us and sharing his wisdom with Syzygy clients. So it's pretty exciting. So I'll make sure that you all have access to that webinar as well. And it is, I'm pretty sure the June Jam session is June 23rd, not November. I know it's not November, but I'm pretty sure it's the 23rd. Okay. So do feel free to invite a friend to jam with us. If you'd like to invite them to a single session, happy to do that. And if you've got ideas for future content, let us know, because we are always looking for ways to build new content. And if you use Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you can use the hashtag WeBeJammin' and share something that you learned today. Would love to open it up for a few moments to just any questions or comments or thoughts that people have as far as time. None? Okay.
What do you think?
Well, thank you.
Is this a deep thoughts kind of a thing? Was there anything that you're taking away that made you go, oh yeah, good reminders, or what stood out?
Saying no.
Yes. Good.
Unapologetically.
Yes.
Easier said than done.
Amen,
Yes.
sister.
That's true. That's
it's
true.
a daily
It's a
struggle.
practice. It's a skill set, right, that we all need to have.
Yeah, and this is Candace, and I think it's funny that that's what stood out to other listeners as well, because saying no, and also, Sarah, I really like your suggestion to provide people with an alternative. Like, I'm saying no to you, but I'm still trying to help you, because I think that that's, well, received in a better light than just, no, I don't have time to do that.
Exactly. And there's always an option that you can offer to somebody, even if it's a, hey, did you know that you could Google it? You know, some things that it may seem simple to us may not be to others. And so, heck, yeah, some solution.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure. Why don't you go Google it?
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, and we will catch you next month.
Yeah, we be jamming. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Woohoo!
Thank you.